The latest UK public sector finances were published on the 21st of March 2025, reflecting the performance and data from February, and they do make worrying reading, unfortunately. So that's what we'll be looking at in this video in a bit more detail, with this video really being a follow-up on a previous video I did back in February, where we looked at the wider health of the UK's economy, that you can find a link to here and in the description. So please do like the video and subscribe to the channel so I can continue to offer more content for you in future. If you follow our social media channels on X, Facebook and Instagram, you'll receive daily crypto and financial education news update posts which will keep you informed. Stick around to the end of this video to find out what services Coin Knowledge offers. Just a quick reminder that nothing contained here is financial advice, and let's jump straight in. Firstly, let's look at UK borrowing for February 2025. So the difference between total public sector spending and income, because this was unfortunately £10.7 billion. This was £100 million more than 1 year earlier in February 2024, and the fourth highest February borrowing in the UK since records began in 1993. In October 2024, the OBR, which is the Office for Budget Responsibility, forecast that borrowing in February 2025 would be £6.5 billion, whereas it was actually £10.7 billion, as we've just seen. So £4.2 billion more borrowing than expected. And at the same time, just to put this into perspective a bit, the UK government took in £87.7 billion in February 2025, which was £3.2 billion more than 1 year earlier in February 2024, but still then borrowed £10.7 billion. Of the £87.7 billion in government receipts, tax receipts increased by £3.7 billion to £67.2 billion. This included increases of £2.8 billion in income tax, £700 million in VAT, and £300 million in corporation tax. However, there were decreases in self-assessment tax receipts, which decreased by £400 million to £3.3 billion, as well as capital gains tax, which will be of interest to crypto investors, which decreased by £600 million compared to the previous year to £1.3 billion. And if we look how much the government spent, its total expenditure was £93 billion in February 2025, which was £3.8 billion more than in February 2024. So given that borrowing increased to £10.7 billion in February that we saw earlier, how much interest did the government have to pay on its huge debt? Well, the interest payable was £7.4 billion in February 2025, actually the same as February 2024, with you being able to see this here from February 2023, and the interest payable is the line here rather than the bars. So we've looked at the UK government's borrowing, receipts, expenditure and interest payable. So let's now take a look at how much the UK's debt is as a percentage of its total GDP or gross domestic product. And you can see this here from all the way back in 1901 to 2025, with debt as a percentage of GDP generally increasing in the UK since 2001, and with the UK's debt currently standing at 95.5% of GDP, which are levels not seen since 1963. This is 0.1% higher than 1 year ago, 0.9% higher than 2 years ago, but actually 0.9% lower than 3 years ago. And it's important to note that this is an estimate at the moment because it's partly based on GDP estimates at this stage, so will be revised in the months to come, with the OBR publishing updated forecasts on the 26th of March, with me recording this video before then. And there are understandable concerns about the accuracy of forecasts, given that borrowing is expected to be £4.2 billion less than it actually was in February 2025. The OBR had to correct itself following its March 2024 forecasts, in which it said that public sector net financial liabilities in the 2028 to 29 fiscal year would be £62 billion, which is since corrected to £43.9 billion, so an £18 billion difference. And you can see the rising yields on 10-year gilts here, for example, since September 2024, with the autumn budget taking place at the end of October. But getting debt falling as a share of the UK's economic output is one of Rachel Reeves' main aims by 2029 to 2030, who we will come back to again a bit later. So if we now look at borrowing in the financial year to February 2025, rather than just February alone, spending was again more than receipts, with current estimates showing that the government borrowed £132.2 billion, which was £14.7 billion more than the previous year. This was also the third highest borrowing since monthly records began in 1993, with only the period following the global financial crisis in the late 2000s and the pandemic being ahead of it. But let's move on and take a look at interest rates, because the Bank of England decided to hold interest rates at 4.5% after its meeting on the 19th of March in an 8-to-1 vote among the Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee, after reducing rates 3 times since July 2024, when interest rates stood at 5.25%, with Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey saying that interest rates should keep coming down, but gradually, with the next decision on interest rates by the Bank of England due on the 8th of May, because Andrew Bailey said that there is a lot of uncertainty at the moment, mentioning things like global trade policy, e.g. tariffs, but also domestically with inflation increasing again, and concerns about this, which I've thought for a while, because you can see here the reduction in interest rates and the increase in inflation up to 3% from 2.5% in the 12 months to December 2024, and CPI being up from 1.7% in September 2024, with the next inflation data for the UK also coming out on the 26th of March with February CPI. So it will be interesting to see what this actually is, because looking at inflation expectations moving forward, the Bank of England published on the 20th of March 2025 its monetary policy summary and minutes from its latest committee meeting, in which a recent City and YouGov survey showed that households' inflation expectations for the year stood at 3.9% in February, up from 3.5% in January, and at its highest level since January 2024. Also, the Bank of England and Ipsos measure of households' inflation expectations for the next 12 months rose to 3.4% in February 2025, the highest level since August 2023. So this is why the Bank of England decided not to lower interest rates further, as it sees what happens with inflation moving forward. So this has certainly added more pressure on the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, who's expected to announce spending cuts to try to meet her aims of bringing down borrowing in her spring statement to Parliament, taking place on the 26th of March, again after I've recorded this video. But with her already confirming on the 23rd of March the plan to cut civil service running costs by 15%, trying to find a saving of £2 billion from its administrative costs, after already announcing changes to the welfare and benefit system to try to reduce this by £5 billion per year. So this is certainly one to keep an eye on moving forward through the summer leading to the autumn budget, with possible further tax increases coming depending on what happens, because the increase in national insurance contributions for employers that was already announced by Rachel Reeves in the previous autumn budget is coming in from the 6th of April 2025, which will obviously have a negative effect. But that ends this video, and as always, I'd love to know what you think about the state of the UK economy in the comments below. Just a reminder that if you're interested in more of a tailored approach to your crypto education, and you think you'd benefit from having someone look over your shoulder and guide you on your journey, I do offer one-to-one coaching to those who have the desire and the means to educate themselves further. And there are links in the description where you can message me and book in a free video call to see if we'd be a good fit. You can sign up for a free account with Coinly using the link in the description to this video, which is one of the best automated crypto tax platforms out there. If you're looking for more specific crypto tax advice based on your personal circumstances, I've partnered with a leading UK crypto tax company in Miner, which is part of the company Nephos, that offers other services such as wealth management, restructuring, offshoring, etc. But I'll leave a link to contact them directly in the description to this video. If you're based in the US and are looking for specific crypto tax advice based on your personal circumstances, I've partnered with a leading US crypto tax company called Crypto Tax Audit, and I'll leave a link to contact them directly in the description to this video. I've also included a link to Trezor's website in the description for anyone looking for one of the best hardware wallets or cold storage out there, with 2 new models released recently in the Trezor Safe 3 and Trezor Safe 5. That I actually did a video on recently that you can find a link to here and in the description. And finally, if you're looking for a portfolio tracker for your crypto portfolio, then I've included a link to CoinStats in the description to this video, which is the leading crypto and Bitcoin tracker on the market. And if you found this content interesting, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. as it really does help. And have a great day.